Welcome to Voices for a Healthy Legacy, where we have discussions about health and wellness with relatable professionals. I am your host, Dr. Andrea, a board-certified family medicine physician. On today's episode of Voices for a Healthy Legacy, we are doing a very special edition. So we will be talking about building wealth in addition to health. So we'd like to welcome Mrs. Crystal Allman.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll get started with the rest of the questions.
Great question. My background. So I do a lot, but
I know.
but I'll keep it simple. First of all, I'm a woman of faith. I am a mother. I am a wife. So these are the roles that I play. In my professional world, I am a strategist and operations manager for the largest professional company in the world. I'll leave them nameless. For a very large organization, I am an operations manager for our global COO there. Outside of that, my husband and I, we have some businesses that we are ramping up or activating. One is KSA, which is Kiwi Swim Academy, and Kiwi KSA Holdings, which is our kind of holding company for our real estate portion of that. And Optimum. Optimum is our real estate investment company. So those are to name a few. I think those are the primary. Those are the primary things.
So you wear many hats very well.
I do.
All right. So you have a bachelor's in marketing and then a master's in management from a global perspective.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. So I have a bachelor's degree in marketing, and then I have a master's in management global business. Okay. So I work for a global company, which kind of explains that in a way.
All right. So I can just tell by talking to you now, and even outside of this particular show, that you have a really deep passion for finance, and all things wealth. So kind of tell us how you became so passionate about that.
Well, I was broke.
Haven't we all been at some point?
No, so I'll say this. I'm being silly, but also being very serious. So, come from a place where, here, I'll just get a story. So, my mom passed away at a very early age for me when I was 18 years old. And at that point, I was on my own. And I just really struggled. I really, really struggled. And I just was determined not to struggle anymore. I was so sick of struggling. And so at that time, I was in college, and just pushing through school. I tell people all the time, you can make it through college, believe me. So, after my mom passed away, I had all these loans, these student loans, all these things, but I was just determined. It doesn't matter how I get through school. I'm just going to do it because I felt like on the other side of that was some level of success where I didn't have to be struggling for a meal or to pay for a book. I mean, it was so crazy. I can remember, asking someone, hey, can I give you $30 to make copies of your book because I couldn't afford the book, And so, I was listening to this man of God at one point, and he said, if you're hungry, you're not hungry enough yet. If you're broke, you're not broke enough yet, because innately we're designed to survive. That's how God made us. And so because of how we are made innately, we should be able to push through all these, adverse things that come against us. So I was just determined. I was just like, I do not want to live a life of poverty or, from check to check. I just need to figure this out. And so that was a lot of the driving force behind just becoming more educated around how does money work? How does currency work? How does the stock market work, and all these different things, because people are out here making money. Yes. How do they do it? So it wasn't like, and then I had some major, situations like my mom passed away, all these things. And as opposed to using it as an excuse, I just used that as, fuel to push me to, keep going because we're wired that way.
Yes. So you were just driven to better yourself and to better probably those around you and your future family when all those things happen so young. You were able to just push and say, there's got to be better on the other side of this.
And then not allowing things to just stop you. from going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the reality of it is life is going to happen, right?
Definitely.
And none of us, whether you have money or not, is exempt from that.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you have to make a decision. Okay, am I going to allow this to be a setback for me? You know, am I going to stay in this place, or am I going to say, okay, it happened. Now, how do I respond to that? You know, and so it's not about what happens; it's your response to what happens. And so that's a very, very, you know, critical piece to that, because things are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just cannot avoid that. It's your emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the things that come along with that. So
Right.
I just decided that whatever I needed to do, educate myself around money, emotionally, therapy, whatever it is that I need to do to move forward, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what the commitment is.
So you made that decision
Mm-hmm.
to not stop and keep going.
Yes.
Awesome. So, in that same vein of things, you later got married and you bought a house,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know the whole story,
Mm-hmm.
but I do remember you saying that you all paid off your home in a very short amount of time.
Yes.
So that is something that a lot of times takes people decades to do. And nothing is wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But just, can you share your journey on how you all made the decision to do that, and just how was that? Because, you know, I don't know very many people who have done that in a short amount of time.
So that's a very, very good question. So it's hard for me to share my stories without including God, because I feel like, honestly, it's the foundation of all of it. But
Right.
I was in the shower one day, and I feel like I heard the Holy Spirit say, I need you to do 3 things. He said, I need you to be debt free, have a baby, and go to school. And I was just thinking, well, that doesn't make sense, because babies cost a lot of money, and so does like a graduate level degree. Like, what? So I was so confused, and I was just like, okay, I mean, well, what do I need to do first? Here are 3 things, but what do I need to do first? And I recall the very next day, I was walking down the hallway to our bedroom, and Rance, my husband, was in the bedroom. And before I got to the door, he goes, babe, he was like, I think there's a way we can be debt free.
Wow.
I was like, what? Like, I was like completely thrown off by that. And I was like, well, maybe this is what we do first, you know, because I was just so confused. And so I walk into the bedroom. He's like, yeah. He was like, I'm looking at the numbers, and I think there's a way that we can be debt free. He said, but he said, if we do this, he said, we will have to hold off on maybe having kids right away.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, now I don't want to pressure you into not having kids. If that's something you want to do right now, we can. He was like, but if we waited just a little bit, we could, you know, maybe like pay off our home and pay off our debt and all these things. And I was like, yeah, I can wait. Like, of course. And so we made a decision. He went through the numbers with me. He explained to me, you know, what this looked like. I told him I was going to talk to my gynecologist because I had babies late or later. And so I went to my gynecologist, and I was like, hey, listen, I was like, this is our game plan. This is what we're deciding to do. I was like, so far in this journey, I've been healthy as a woman, my reproductive system, all that stuff. I was like, but check me out. I was like, you know, outside of him, you got first dibs down there. You know what's going on. I was like, so if there's anything that's off balance or anything, you know, let me know, because we're going to try to hold off on having kids for right now. And we're going to try to start our family debt free. And so she looked at me and she said, no, you're healthy. Everything looks good. If anything comes up over, you know, your yearly appointments or whatever, I'll let you know. But for now, she's like, go for it. So I was like, okay. So I did consult my medical professional, because I was already in my 30s, and I was just like, let me just make sure. And so Rance put together a plan for us, and we started working our game plan. And we were very, very aggressive. Started with a 30-year loan. We refinanced for a 15-year loan because we knew how aggressive we were going to be. And then we refinanced one last time for a 10-year loan, knowing we were going to pay it off in 5 years. We did that just to get the check back. It was kind of like, you know, we can take advantage of the lower interest rate. But we honestly decided to be aggressive. And if you know anything about principal payments versus, you know, that's exactly what happened. So we started putting a great deal of money on our monthly payment. Now, you may see some of the like videos or reels on Instagram where they talk to you about, if you put, you know, an extra $1,500 on one payment per year, it'll get you down from 30 to this. Well, imagine doing that every month.
Wow.
So we were really, really aggressive about getting rid of our principal payment. So much so the bank kept like stopping us online. Like, are you trying to make this payment? We've made it for the last 6 months. Come on now. You know exactly what we're doing. But anyway, we got real aggressive about our principal payments and we paid it off in 5 years. And so,
Wow.
so that was part, the first part. And ironically, I got pregnant within that last year and we paid off our final payment in September 1st. And I had my first son October 1st. So we started our family debt free.
Oh my, that is like amazing. So how did you feel? Like it just so happened to line up that way, but like when you made that last payment and you're like, we worked together to do this in 5 years, and then to have your baby a month later, and it's like you're starting
And
your
really,
family. Like what were all the things that were going through your mind? Like did you like connect all those dots and say, well, oh my God.
well, the house was paid off in 5 years and we had one more year of like student loans and all that stuff. So technically we paid off all of our debt in 6 years. The house was just the first, initial thing.
Okay.
So on the tail end of that 6 year, that's when we had our son. And you just feel with a plethora of just different emotions. I was like, oh my God, like, because the Bible says, oh, no man, nothing but to love them. You know what I mean? And so I was proud. I was like, this is a real moment. You know what I mean? And we sacrificed quite a bit and not as much as we could have. We still incorporated going on vacations once a year.
Okay.
And we didn't do any like Christmas gifts or Valentine's Day gifts or anything like that. We celebrated 3 things. We celebrated his birthday, my birthday, and our anniversary. So we each had a day and we had a day together. And so that was the only thing we would spend money on. So I went years without getting Valentine's Day gifts and all that type of stuff. And I went years without getting Christmas gifts. But honestly, it wasn't important to me. The deed was important to me. And so that was the priority. It's like, do you want roses that's going to die in a month? Do you want the deed to your house? You figure it out. Like, it's priorities. And so we prioritize that. It's even now, it's kind of funny because Christmas is coming up, it's December 1st. And I just remember thinking, somebody asked me, what you going to get rents for Christmas? And I'm so out of the habit of even thinking about that. I was like, nothing, like, but it's because our priorities are just different. And I think by having different types of priorities in that regard, it really frees you up and it really gives you your choice back.
Right. So that was going to be my next question. Do you feel a type of freedom that not saying you wouldn't ever have gotten to this point, but to still be so young and have that type of freedom? Like, what does that feel like when you wake up every day?
That feels like you have your choice back. It's not about just not owing people money. It's the position it puts you in. You go to work and the job is not a good job, or you lose a job, or you get laid off from a job, or whatever the case may be. You don't have that same feeling like I'm not going to have a roof over my head. It's the transition between I got to do what I got to do to this more thriving mentality. That's, we're surviving. Culturally, I think we've mastered surviving. We've been doing it since slavery. It's part of our DNA, but it's moving from that surviving to that thriving mentality. It's like, oh, if something happens, I'm not out. If something, if something comes up unexpectedly, we're okay. So it gives you this sense of just freedom and choice that I think we all really need. And you have more time, which is also valuable, right? So if you decide, hey, I'm going to, do something else because this isn't working out for me, you have time to do that without feeling like life is over with if I don't hurry up and, get another job or whatever. It just changes your whole mentality. I don't even look at money the same way. I look at money as like a resource. It comes in. How can I take $1 and turn it into $2? I'm not thinking about if my bills are going to be paid anymore. I'm not thinking about if my mortgage is going to be paid. If, I'm not thinking about a bill collector. It's a shift. It really is. It's a paradigm shift in your mind mentally. And it's freedom. I don't know how to explain it. It's a real freedom. It's the place that I feel like God is trying to, get us to.
Right. So making those sacrifices, do you feel like, well, you kind of touched on it already. Do you feel like that accelerated your wealth building strategy?
Absolutely. It's called delayed gratification. If you've been around me any length of time, I always talk to people about delayed gratification. You take a year or two to set yourself up, it could prepare you for the next, or propel you into a much better situation over the next 10 years. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, I was a person that I felt like was making, a decent amount of money. And I had friends around me that were buying, bags and all this stuff, taking trips, and I can't lie, like I wasn't tempted in some regard because I'm thinking I make more money than them, but they're like living their best life. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you want something, when you truly, truly want something, you sacrifice, and that's what a delayed gratification comes from. So now I sacrifice that, but now I'm partaking in $1 million projects, whereas before I wasn't able to do that. Now my buying power has increased. My credit score is 850. Like, it was a sacrifice, and you're looking around and it feels like other people are doing, more
Mm-hmm.
than what you're doing. They look good. They got nice clothes and they have all these things. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, that sacrifice lends itself to prosperity, longevity, and it does that consistently.
Mm.
It's not like, oh, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, if I wasn't free and clear, I wouldn't be able to do X, Y, and Z. But because of that,
Mm-hmm.
it's repositioned me to be in a place where I can do more, you know, with, I guess, a little bit less risk.
And so it sounds like you set yourself up to be in this position. It sounds like you have constant reminders that, man, this was such a good choice. So even though you were in a season where you were like, oh man, I'm missing out, but it's just like the opportunities that you have now, some people only dream of being able to have. But and to know that, because of your faith and you felt like God planted that seed in you, it's just like the world has just opened up to
It
you.
does. I mean, even with our children. So we have two boys. Rock is my youngest, and then we have Rance the third. He's the oldest. But even what you're able to do for your children, it goes a lot further. Like, I can give my kids a better education. I can give my kids better food. I mean, you know how much food costs, right?
Right.
So I mean, so it's the things that really set you up for legacy. It's the things, it's taking it to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, I've had moments where it's like, whew, are we doing the right thing? But when you look at those sacrifices and you see the outcomes of those sacrifices, it's a reminder, as you said,
Right.
that you are, heading down the right path.
Glad that you brought up your two boys.
Mm-hmm.
So, being that, is it safe to say you're like the first generation in your family to go down this path of wealth and freedom?
Yes.
Okay. So, did your perspective change on family wealth building once you had started to have children? I know you were already on this path, but did it change your outlook, or did the children kind of open up another level of this is what we need to start doing as far as wealth is concerned?
So I think it started before that.
Okay.
So I come from parents where they were hardworking and more was possible, but they didn't get to that place.
Mm-hmm.
And we went from a very like poor place to maybe more of a middle class family. And my mom, she was always a very hard worker. My stepdad was too, always a very hard worker. But she always kind of instilled in me that more is possible.
Mm-hmm.
I remember she was a real estate agent, and I remember one time she said, you can't sell $1 million home driving a Honda.
Mm.
And I remember thinking, yes, you can. But, of course, as you get old and you start to like replay things, I was like, wow, I get the point. You know what I mean? And so I bring that up to say, when we had children, I don't think it started there, but I think it kind of like cemented for us that we have legacy here. We have people that's going to carry our names, and people that once we're long gone, are going to be here as a descendant of us. And so that's important. It's very, very important. And so I am a huge believer that you give your kids as much as your resources allows. So like right now, I drive across town to take my kids to school. And I'll do it every single day, every single time, because it's a better school, it's a great school. And I want them to have that level of education as well as independence and freedom and structure, or not structure, because it's a Montessori school. It's a little bit, it's structure in Montessori, but it's a little bit different.
Right.
But no, they pretty much cemented that thought though. Like, no, we're on the right track, and we need to position ourselves that when we leave here, then not only that they have money, but more so that they have the mindset and they understand money and they understand how it works and they understand decision making, and that they are emotionally intelligent as an individual and as it relates to business. So the types of things that we instill in our kids, even my kids are 2 and 4. So even at a very young age are starting to be those things. Like, who are you as an individual, as a person, understanding who you are, and how that, spills over into what you do. So all those things are just critical, I think, components. Like, one of the things we do with our kids, I'm like, what did you fail at today? I want them to have a healthy relationship with failure, because it's part of life. And I don't want you to feel like failure or rejection is the end of, the road for you. So like, we practice that. My baby came home just the other day. He's like, I tried something new. And I'm like, what did you try new? And so those are the type of things that we want to build them as an individual, and them being able to be good decision makers and, things like that. So I'll say all that to say, I wouldn't say it started with them per se, but I will say that having them kind of like submit it for you. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, okay,
right.
This is important, not just for us. It opens your world up to say, this is bigger than just me and us, and what we have is more.
So your children will not have to start from ground zero per se when it comes to emotional intelligence and wellness, and being able to learn so much from you all. So what are some things, even though they're very young, what are some things that you are kind of able to try to help them to learn at this stage about money or just wealth building? Are you able to like give them some nuggets at this age, or do they have, what's their level of understanding? Granted, I know they're really young, but I think this could be helpful to know some of the things that you may do with them to help some other parents out there with their families and their little ones.
Transparency. That's the biggest thing.
Like, now, how transparent?
So when I can't say we, but I know when I grew up, it was grown people are talking, go in the other room, don't be in other, grown people's mouths, all that type of stuff. And so, you show up on Christmas Day and there's a lot of gifts, but you don't know what's going into that. And so one of the things that Rance and I are committed to is transparency with our kids. Now, to your point, they're 2 and 4. So it's kind of like, it's not like we're not being transparent, but we understand that there's just some things you're not going to understand. But they get money. And when we get money, and like case in point, their uncle gave them $20 each. It's like, oh, if you're at the zoo, buy you something out of the little shop. So we go into the shop once we're leaving the zoo. It's like, well, you both have $20. What do you want to buy? And so, of course, my son go pick the most expensive thing. He's like, I want this, this big, I don't know, like safari truck or whatever. And my husband's like, well, how much money do you have? He goes, $20. And he goes, well, how much is this? And he was like, $49.95. and so my husband was like, well, you don't have enough money because this number is greater, right? And so it's just the small things, like teaching them, like, this is what you have. And not only that, but okay, here's something that's $19.95. Let's talk about taxes. Let's talk about this. So we use what they like toys and reading and, activities, as teaching moments. And so he was like, oh, so this costs $19.95. Technically, that's less than $20. Right. But we have to talk to you about taxes, because in Mount Brook, they charge, 10% tax. So that tax on blah, 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 which puts you over your $20. He's like, taxes, like, what is that? So like, it's just using where they are, or meeting them where they are, and using those moments as teachable moments, so they can understand. So he had to go buy a toy that was like $14 that ended up, after the fact being roughly $18. And then he got back money. He's like, oh, I get money back, just explaining to him. And then he got home. He's like, well, I guess I can put the rest of this in my piggy bank, which was also a teaching moment. Save some of your money. Don't always go out here and just spend every single thing that you have and, things like that. So at this age, it's just using, I guess, practical life as teachable moments.
Right. That's so awesome because they definitely can relate to toys. Like, I want this, but, my money says I can't have it. What's my alternative?
Correct.
So, they are knowing like, okay, even though I may not be able to get this, like I still have options, but, it just may be where I have to kind of pick something else. So that's
pick something else. Or if you really want this, let's save our money. And when we come back next time, maybe you'll have enough to afford what you actually really, really want. So it's so many different ways that you can leverage that and use it. So I do a lot of that at the grocery store. So at Whole Foods, they have those little bitty mini baskets.
What is it? Shopper in training or something like that.
Right. And so I use those as teachable moments too. So we go through the store, we pick our items, we count our items. We always count. We pick our items and then I let them go up to the counter. They put their stuff on the belt. They pay for it. They think an American Express card is like money. I'm like, no, this is a card. So you get to explain all of that. So it's just using practical life to teach them, from the beginning, like how it works. You bought you picked up a product that we have to now go pay for.
All right. So there's a popular quote that health is wealth. So we know that you're on a wealth journey, but you're also on a health and wellness journey. So tell me, of course, we had to talk about that, from the doctor's perspective, but you really make sure that you make health and wellness a priority in the midst of everything. So just kind of talk to us about why that's so important and how you're able to make that a priority in the midst of all the things that you have going on.
Okay. So what does it profit you to have a lot of money and a lot of things, but you don't get to experience it?
Yes.
I mean, that's the short of it. What's more valuable than money is time. And the way you get time is by taking care of yourself. So if I am, a wealthy person, but I have high blood pressure, like I'm doing things to shorten my lifespan, then what's the point? So yeah, health is absolutely wealth because health is a direct correlation with time. And so I don't only want to just go out here and make a lot of money. I want to be able to experience that, take that money and have experiences with my family and create memories and things like that. So it's absolutely important. And so because of that, I made a decision to be plant-based. I made a decision to be vegan. And so that's really critical to me because, and it's not that everybody has to be vegan. So let me,
of course, we are not saying that. Even though I'm vegan as well, we're not saying
we're not saying that. But I do think it's important to be health conscious. I do think it's important to read labels. I think it's important to have a conscious or understanding of what you're putting in your body, because that could expand or shorten your lifespan, the time that you have. I think I saw something that said if you ask somebody, if you could live, till you were, I don't know, 105 versus like having $1 million, but you had to die tomorrow. It was something weird like that. But it was just really calling out that your time is really more valuable than your money.
Yes.
And so, because you want to be able to leverage that and create memories and be with your family, your friends, and do all the things. So, I mean, what does it profit you to have $1 million, but you're going to die in 2 days? It's like,
right.
It doesn't make sense.
Right. So you're committed to, even though life happens, as we know, but you are committed to doing your part to make sure that, hey, if something's going to happen, it's not going to be because I didn't do my part in trying to offset some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, your body is your temple, right? It's like, take care of it, and that doesn't mean I don't have my sweets or I don't, have my moments where, I have the things that I like, but it's balance. It's like do things in moderation, too much of anything will kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even being plant-based, let me start there too, because there's a lot of like misunderstandings out there about being vegan and being plant-based. So being vegan, vegan actually spills over to veganism, which goes into not just your food. It can get into like your products, your clothes. I carry a leather bag, so let me be very clear. I'm talking about my diet. Okay, that's what I got. Maybe later on I'll get to that point.
Right.
But I said that to say, when you are prioritizing your diet, like it has a direct impact on, you with others. I mean, there now have been like, there now have been studies around like how some of the stuff in the food is causing like hormone imbalances. I mean, how did you get from food to like your psychiatrist, like the couch? It's like all these things, it impacts you emotionally. So it's a lot of chemicals that, and you're a doctor, so you probably know this better than I do, but it's a lot of things that even affect you down to your emotions, which is the strangest thing.
Right.
And so, the more you know, I think the better you should do. Like it's kind of hard, you know what I mean? To know all the things you know and not make changes.
Right.
But it does require some level of discipline. People are like, how did you give up meat? I'm like, how are you not giving up meat? Like I equally feel like the opposite, but I think it's just so important on so many different levels.
Right.
I think all of our diseases and all the things that are happening, it comes from what we're putting in our bodies.
Right. Do you have any current projects that you're working on that you'd like to share with our audience? And you don't have to.
I was thinking,
if you don't have to, but
current projects. I mean, we do corporate leasing around the city of Birmingham. So maybe I can share some Airbnb links or VRBO links.
And we'll put those. Anything you want to share, we can put it in the show notes.
Okay. So we do corporate leasing. So if you are of any profession, you need to come to Birmingham, or of people, feel free to reach out to us directly, which is probably the better way because you get a deal when you reach out to us directly.
Right.
Because if you go through the sites, then they're going to tack on their fees and stuff. Or either way, we do have that. With the swim school, we're probably about 21, 22 months out from that. It's actually a build out from the ground up.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's a project that I remember when you were just talking about it, and now it's like happening. Yeah. So what's the vision behind that project?
Well, one, it's a life skill. Let's start there. And we've talked a lot about me having children on this podcast, and I think it's just important for kids to have that, but also adults. Our swim school not only caters to children, but it also caters to adults. And so sometimes we have late bloomers where people didn't get an opportunity to learn how to swim as a kid, but they want to learn how to swim now. And I just think it's a critical life skill set. But in addition to that, we are looking out we want people to have this skill set that have diverse abilities. So if you have children that are on the spectrum, or if you have kids that have diverse abilities, we want to cater to that group too. Because, we want to make sure we're being inclusive and we're showing up for all kids, all adults, regardless of their abilities.
Right.
So that's going to be a while. That project is a complete build out. So it'll be a while, but as things progress and as we break ground and start to do all those things, I'll keep you all in the loop. But definitely sign up. Definitely learn how to swim if you don't know how to swim. If you have children, I think it's just imperative because you want to be comfortable when you go on vacations. You want to know that, if something happened, my kid knows how to flip over. And I have enough time to get to my child, to save a life. And it'd be those very small things that can make a difference between life or death, like a real big difference. So, so I love business of all sorts. But I do try to make sure it's not just about profit. It's about impact. And so when I look at business and business relationships, those are the things that I'm looking at.
Right. And I know it 100% has to line up with your personal values.
Absolutely.
Like you don't compromise.
No. It has to be a fit. I had a meeting before I got here. It has to be a fit. And this is a really, really big project. I can't talk about that one now, but it's a really big project. And I was sitting across, there's millions of dollars at this table. And I said, I'm here because I want to know who you are. And that's big. it's not just about, hey, let's come together and let's make money. It's like, it's this partnership, it's this relationship of fit.
Mm-hmm.
Because if our values don't align, then we're going to eventually bump heads. But I know if our values do align, that when we do come to situations that where we have a conflict, then because we have similar values, we can, we have more of a chance to work through those things versus, not working through those things. So, so it's just, I mean, those are like two main, main things. I'm working on a book.
Yes, I've been waiting on this book. We'll have to have you back
when the book comes out.
Right.
Like I'm putting this on camera so that I can go ahead and get it finished. That's my accountability.
Yes, this is we're holding her accountable.
Yes, to get this wrapped up. So working on a book, and honestly, I'm in a place where I want to use all of me. Mm-hmm. Dr. Miles Monroe once said, we should die empty. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so good because can you imagine how many people have left here, prematurely, right, and then get an opportunity to do all that they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when God gives you gifts and talents, you should use that to like serve people and help people and make money for yourself and your family and build legacy. So what I'm doing going into FY24 is just really identifying what am I good at and how can what I do or the things that I'm good at be of service to others.
Yeah.
So
you give me goosebumps because I know you mean it.
I do. And I had to take a hard look at myself this year and ask myself, am I leaving something on the table? What could I be doing in this situation to really help other people? To build more legacy for my family. Like, what are the things you think about Proverbs 31 woman? Like, she had all these different things going on. I'm just like, like, how is she doing all this stuff? I'm like, this is an unreal person, but like, but she's a very real person. And I think that, really looking at yourself, really saying, okay, what do I have in my house? It's not about having all the money, all the things. It's like, what do I have now that I can leverage to help people or serve people or, whatever that may be. So it's just like, I'm taking a hard look at myself, look at myself and I'm saying, okay, I'm focused on the things that I feel like God has given me. Mm-hmm. And how can I serve? How can I use that to, build legacy? How can I, have an impact in the communities? I'm just looking at all those things because when I leave here, I want to leave it all on the field.
It's going to be well done.
I want to be well done. I want God to be like, girl, you did that. You used everything. You made up stuff. I want it to be like, because I feel like if you don't, it's kind of wasted, right? And I don't want my gifts or my talents to be wasted. I want them to be leveraged for, helping other people and my family and everything. So.
As we come to a close, what's one piece of advice that you want to leave with our audience regarding building a family legacy? You can look at it from health, wellness, wealth. Just give a piece of advice.
I want to just say anything random. I want to make this good. Well, to your point, health is definitely wealth. So take care of yourself. Like, do regular doctor visits. Be proactive about your health and just making sure, you don't have to be vegan, but if you're going to eat meat, eat, good quality meat. If you're going to, the things that you consume the most, that you eat the most, make sure it's the highest quality of that thing. Mm-hmm. Beware of processed foods. You probably heard the myth, don't shop on the inside of the grocery store, shop on the outside. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You probably heard that. That's true because all the fresh foods, all the fresh meats and vegetables and produce and all that stuff, that's on the outside. So I think that's true. So when it comes to health, I think it's just important to take care of yourself. That is huge because again, what does it profit you to make a bunch of money and like you can't experience it, right? And you can't use that to help people or whatever. So like it doesn't make sense. So make sure you take care of yourself. From a money perspective, debt freedom. Oh God, I preach debt freedom all day long.
Do I hear a chorus?
Listen, come back to me in about 6 months. but debt freedom, because one, it's a principle of God. That's one. But debt freedom because it gives you your choice back. And I cannot say that enough. debt freedom. And, people are like, well, I paid off everything but my house. It's still debt. Your house is a liability until it's making you money. Okay. So as long as you're paying on that house and it's not producing you any type of income or anything like that, it is a liability. So people are like, well, I paid off everything but my student loans. Pay it off. Pay off all of it. I don't care what it is. Student loans, houses, you name it. Get rid of it. The quickest way to increase your income is to reduce your expenses. Do it. Start figure out ways. Well, people are like, well, I don't have a lot of money. If you have $10, $2, $5, whatever it is, figure out ways to decrease that debt and get rid of those expenses. And then just take a hard look at what your expenses are.
Right.
I think on average people have like 40 subscriptions. They don't even recall, take a hard look, create a budget, take a real lens to your finances and look at that, because it could be the difference between, a choice you make today and tomorrow. Like it could be the difference between taking something that you really don't want to take because you have to take it versus, no, I can take what I want to take, or I can wait because I have a choice. So if I had to leave anything about finances, like figure out a way to reduce your debt and become debt free, because it gives you your choice back. And you don't feel that same pull in your job when people are being disrespectful to you or overlooking you for promotions, or, you don't feel that like, I gotta, I gotta keep putting up with this. Like it changes your mindset. So yeah, so take care of yourself and work on being debt free. And if you need more tips, just reach out to me. I'll let you know. We can talk one-on-one.
And speaking of that, so how can people reach out to you to find more about you, follow what you're doing, or to just maybe look at future partnerships or various things like that? How can they reach out to you?
So I'm on social media. You can find me at Crystal M Allman. It's my name. So it's a very CRYSTALM and then ALLMAN. So Crystal M Allman. I probably need to open it up because my account is private, but I'll probably unlock it so that people can get to me a little faster.
Yeah.
But I do that because I'm intentional about my relationships. Also be intentional about your relationships. But so you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Dr. Andrea Y. You can whatever you need to do. I am happy to have a conversation.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for tuning in to Voices for a Healthy Legacy. Again, I am your host, Dr. Andrea, a board certified family medicine physician. We will see you in the next episode.